first 5 years throwing for an average of 4,000 yards a year, but making a lot of mistakes, a lot of interceptions, right?
Right.
And you know who this quarterback is, right?
Yeah.
Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
But nobody in their right mind would have said in those first 5 years, get rid of him, off with his head, bring out the tar and feathers. He's done. He's a bum. Welcome to another edition of Jen Sports Corner. I'm back at you for March 12th, 2022. I am your host, Jen. I'm here with a special guest. Introduce yourself, sir.
My name is Zell. I am a diehard Washington fan. I used to say the name Commanders yet, but I'm a Washington fan. I'll put it like that for now.
And you're a very, very strong man, very confident man. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love my team. 30 years is just down the drain, But hey, I'm with it. I'm gonna stick with them. I'm gonna stick with them as much as I can.
I feel you on that one, man. Maybe you should call Joe Gibbs out of retirement. I mean, give you another run.
Man, reincarnate Sean Taylor if we could.
Hey, you guys got some holes to fill. I will tell you that much.
Yeah, definitely. With this Carson Wentz trade, definitely we do.
Yeah, let's look into that because obviously as an Eagles fan, we are very intrigued by the dynamics of this. So let me bring up the share screen so we can go ahead and look into the details.
Okay.
All right, you see my screen?
Yep.
All right, so let's go to CBS.com. Carson Wentz trade grade. Colts left without a veteran QB. The Commanders, that's a new name, settled after missing out on Russell Wilson, the big trade we talked about in the last episode. Russell Wilson to Mile High for a ransoms haul, a king's ransom. Multiple first-round picks, multiple second-round picks, and this one was quite different because you look at the Colts last year, they got to the brink of the playoffs and really choked in that week 18 game, right?
Yeah.
Carson Wentz was having a solid year up to that point. Obviously, I can't remember their running back's name, Taylor, right?
Jonathan
Taylor, number one running back in the league, put up some monster numbers. Obviously, they had a solid run game, but he was a glue, part of the glue that kept that engine running. Carson Wentz was. And he did not come up big in that big moment. That was really bad. He lost to a horrible team. Lost to the Jaguars, right?
Yeah.
Now going into that game, I actually picked them on my Pick'ems league. I picked the Jaguars to win, not because they're good, but because the Colts have not beat the Jaguars since 2014, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
It's crazy. So
that's wild.
And they not only lost, but they got their heads kicked in. And that was the nail in the coffin. So you knew Carson Wentz was going to be on the move. There was a lot of talk about him being cut or released, but nobody saw this move happening. And he gets traded to the Washington Commanders. And the Commanders receive Carson Wentz and a second-round pick in this year's draft coming up. And then the Colts receive a second and a third-round pick in this year's draft, as well as a third-round pick in next year's draft that can go up to a second-round pick if Carson Wentz plays 70% of the snaps.
Sounds like y'all trade a little bit.
Sounds exactly like our trade. It's like, how were they able to pull off the same thing? I was like, there's no way on God's green earth.
Hey, man, year to year, you got to show your worth. So he showed that he's worth 2 third-round picks this year,
Yeah. So our one was crazy because we actually got our third first-round pick from this trade. It's just like insane to me.
That's
so,
right.
Thank you, Indianapolis. But, look, Carson Wentz, you tell me what your thoughts on the trade, and I'll give my thoughts.
All right. So my initial thought when I heard about this trade, I was at work, and I flipped. I threw my phone across the room. I'm not going to lie. I threw my phone across the room. I said, we got Carson Wentz. I mean, granted, when he was in Philly, he gave us the works in Washington. I will say that. So I know about Carson Wentz. I actually think Carson Wentz is not a bad quarterback. But the fact is that I clowned Carson Wentz a little bit, even though I did think he was a good quarterback. I put him as he was injury prone. I mean, he was able to stay healthy this year, so he proved a lot of people wrong about that, always being injured. I'll give him that. But when I was able to sleep on it, I thought about it, and the only thing that really upset me about this trade was the fact that we took on his contract of $28 million guaranteed, where we need help in other areas, and we took on this man's contract where $5 million is due on the first day of free agency. $34 million in cap space to only having $6 million in cap space, and then having to cut Landon Collins just to make up for that. Like that's eating away at what your needs are. But again, when I looked at the trade, that was my biggest concern, was just the salary, and obviously it's a trickle down effect that's happening right now. But again, he's better than what we've had, honestly, in the last 30 years at quarterback. I mean, Taylor Heineke did what he did last year. He has a lot of moxie. He did help us win some games last year. But when it came to those big moments, those big games, it just wasn't there. He didn't have the arm strength. He got trigger happy. I mean, look at the 2 Dallas games. I mean, granted, yeah, we got hit with COVID like everyone else did. But just look at those 2 Dallas games. He looked like he was shell-shocked, and Dallas was just having fun because they knew they had his number. And once a team or the league sees that, it's a copycat league. So people know what you're going to get with Taylor Heineke. We do know what we're going to get with Carson Wentz, but Carson Wentz has a better arm, in my opinion. When it comes to touchdown to interception ratio, Carson Wentz probably has the better numbers than Taylor because just of that arm strength on his own, but also scheme-wise. I think that with bringing in Carson Wentz, I think that the offense can open up a little bit more because you can go down the field a little bit more. I mean, Terry McLaurin is a dog. He needs somebody that can throw him the ball. And he hasn't had that since he's been here in Washington, but he's proven that he's the number 1 wide receiver. So you can get him somebody that can throw the ball. Imagine what he can do. And so that, set well just a little bit better with me.
Absolutely.
But again, with the Carson Wentz trade, you have to look at the salary because, again, we have holes we need to fill. We need a linebacker. We need another safety. We need another corner at least. And we need a guard because we can't re-sign Sheriff. Sheriff's not going to want to sign here. We can't pay him anymore.
No.
So what are we going to do?
What are we going to do, Rabbit? What are we going to do? So you guys had to cut Landon Collins. So you saved, I think at least $6 million in the cap this year. He was going to count $16 million in your cap. So you saved
6.4.
6.4, right? So right now, Carson Wentz is 28 million against your cap. 15 of that is guaranteed. So are you locked into the full 28? No, but yeah, that's a big cap hit. Yeah. You also have big cap hits with your cornerbacks. You have William Jackson. I don't know how good he is. Kendall Fuller, I know him. He's solid. But William Jackson, the third.
Yeah, he didn't show up a lot last year. I mean, granted, with the new scheme.
Look at this cap.
Yeah. Hey, when you come out as number 1 corner in free agency, that hits you. I mean, granted, this is the second year going to be with us. Prove to us that number is going to be worth it.
Your issue is going to be a tackle because just like with him, you grossly overpaid with Eric Flowers from the Giants.
Yeah, and that's something that I've heard that they are actually in the works of recontracting with him, which, I see him doing. I mean, he wanted to come back to Washington after, we had tried to sign him 2 years ago and he went to Miami. He requested to come back to Washington. So he loves it here. So I can see him taking that cap-friendly deal. So that's going to be helpful.
Yeah, because looks like they can cut him without any cap penalty right here. No guaranteed salary, no dead money if they cut him, I guess, prior to June 1st. So they'll save the entire $9.9 million. So, they're going to restructure his salary for sure. Deron Payne, he could be a post-June 1st cap casualty.
After definitely. I feel like if with the Deshaun Watson news coming out, I feel like he would have probably been in works with the trade. But again, I feel like because Deshaun has that no trade clause in there, Deshaun gets to sign off on the trade. Right. I couldn't see him wanting to come. He'd be great here. Trust me, I feel like he'd be dynamic. But it's Washington. We have too much going on right now, especially with our owner.
Yeah. You don't have the foundation right now with that offensive line. So if I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm looking at, can they pay me to? Can they protect me? So I'm not trying to get my head bashed in like I was behind that line down in Houston. Even if you had the weapons, like he had Nuck for umpteen years, but they never were really able to protect him. Right? He had to scramble every play to really make things happen, as opposed to being able to sit back and really be able to launch it without fear of his blind side being compromised. So
right.
So the dark horse team, well, the teams that we've obviously heard mentioned are the Eagles, as they should be, because he should be in Philly. So that that's the Eagles. We have a good line. Kelsey just said he's coming back. Kelsey had an epic video yesterday. Poured out a cup of beer. And the drama and suspense, took a swig, beer coming off the beer, wiped it off, saying, "I will be retiring from talking about ESPN or whatever." He ain't going to retire from the Eagles anytime soon. So we good there.
That's center in the league, man.
Can't hate. So with Carson Wentz, look, so the arm is there. You're going to have that gunslinger mentality. He's going to have plays where he frustrates you because he extends the play way too long, and he's going to have boneheaded plays. But you take the good with the bad, because the improvisation is what makes him unique. It's what makes
exactly. And that's one thing that I look at him and say that's a plus for us, because we haven't really had that quarterback besides Heineke to kind of show us that. But again, when Heineke throws those type of throws, it's a hit or miss. It either is flat or it's not delivered to the wide receiver, or it's tipped in the air. Whereas with Carson, I mean, there's throws I've seen Carson make that he's zipping the ball past two defenders. I mean, look at the game his last year with you guys. There was a play here in Washington where he threw to the back of the end zone, but in front of two defenders. And I remember that play like it was yesterday. That was ridiculous. And that's something that I'm looking forward to having on our squad.
Yeah. So I think the real question with Carson Wentz is going to be, is he coachable? That's been the big issue that's been popping up.
Right.
Going from the end of his tenure with the Eagles, during his time with the Colts, those things immediately started popping up. Those concerns about, is his ego too big for his own good, right? Is he coachable? Does he take constructive criticism, right? Because all he's known is being the guy,
right?
Since being at North Dakota State. He's never been a backup. He's always won, right? They've always won championships. That first run with the Eagles that he had here, even with the injury, he still probably should have won MVP that year, right? And the Eagles would even get to that position to have home field advantage in the playoffs without
Carson. Exactly.
Right? So all he's known is winning or putting his team in a position to go on and win their first Super Bowl. So he doesn't know. He's like, this is the way I've always done things. Why would I do them any differently?
Exactly. And I feel like, with that even being said, like, he's now on his third team in 3 years. Like, so, and then, but it's not only in 3 years, he's back in his old division.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like he might now have some type of, okay, I got to prove something to somebody, because they're trying to count me out. I mean, last time this happened was Donovan McNabb coming in, and he was here in Washington, and we all know how that went. But that's Donovan McNabb at the end of his career. This is Carson Wentz, technically and supposedly in his prime.
Mm-hmm.
What can he do? Can he get that monkey off his back? I think, honestly, I've had many discussions, because I have a lot of Eagles fans as friends. And I've always pointed to the fact that you guys decided to put a statue of Folk in front of Lincoln Financial right after he wins the Super Bowl for you guys. But your quarterback of the future was hurt. And I'm like, if that was me, I'll take that as a slap in the face. And that would screw me up too mentally. Like, I did all this for you guys to put a statue of somebody else there. Like, come on. So I feel like he may have something to prove going forward. You know, getting away from you guys was probably the best thing for him. He had a great year last year, besides the fact of not making the playoffs, lose to the Jaguars. But going forward, his numbers have kind of been, stable and been consistent. Can he do that same thing here in Washington? Does Washington have that stability for him? Yes, I feel like we have maybe a running back and what's his name? In 24, and then we have Terry, and then we have Logan Thomas as our tight end. I feel like we have some pieces in place that Carson can use. I mean, last time he really had a wide receiver that go over 500 yards was Alshon Jeffries. He had 2 years where he went about 700 yards and then 800 yards.
Right.
That's a big wide receiver. That's a 6'4" guy. We're talking about Terry McLaurin, who he's not 6'4", but he's like 6'1", I believe, and he can catch like any of the top 5 receivers in the league. Let's see what he can do with that, because Carson Wentz technically has never really had a receiver or receiving core to throw to.
That's good, because I was actually just going to get to that point, because he didn't have that. He had that the first couple of years. He had Alshon Jeffrey still in his prime at that point, coming off 2 down years with the Bears, but those were injury-riddled seasons. But we knew what Alshon was when he was on the field with Jay Cutler. Like, he was a beast, him and Brandon Marshall. And he was the future for that team. He just couldn't pay him. So he came to the Eagles, and Carson Wentz had that first year, right? And then he had a speed threat in Torrey Smith. He goes to the Colts. They have nobody there, man.
Nobody.
T.Y. Hilton was injured, right? He was on and off the field, and he wasn't the same guy as he was 2-3 years prior. And then you have Pascal, and then you have Michael Pittman, who's a very young receiver. Is he dynamic? We don't know yet, right? You have a bunch of guys, like solid guys, but nobody that's going to scare you.
Right.
So all you really have is Jonathan Taylor and then a bunch of solid guys, which is cool. But then when teams are able to take away your options, there's no one guy where they're like, we have to double him. Right. Then that's a point where Carson Wentz, is he great? We don't know, because a great quarterback, maybe you throw people
over. You can work with what you have.
Right. Exactly. I think he has an issue with, he has to work on throwing people open. That's one skill that Nick Foles had, even though he didn't have the physical traits that Carson Wentz had. He knew how to throw his receivers open. So that was a big point of contention with Alshon Jeffrey. Alshon Jeffrey started doing better when Nick Foles came in, because to be honest, Carson Wentz wouldn't throw him the 50-50 balls. He's like, yo, if you're not open, he was just reluctant to give him the ball, whereas Nick Foles would give him that jump ball.
Right.
Like, he would trust him a little more. He had, so, and I think that comes with experience. Like, he's a veteran at this point. But yeah, this is going to be one of the first times where Scary Terry, he's the real deal. He's going to have a guy where if everything else fails, he can turn to his left and say, boom, we're 17. Right? Exactly. So we'll see how that helps him, because he's about 28 now. He's still a very young guy. And
then don't forget, we have Curtis Samuels. I mean, yes, Curtis Samuels was injured last year, but speed guy. I hope he's not like another Paul Richardson. However, you know, if he's not like Paul Richardson, that's 2 weapons you got. You have speed. I mean, and then again, Antonio Gibson in the backfield. I mean, that speed there. He's also another guy that played wide receiver. So he will have weapons. He will have everything at his luxury. But can he produce? And that to me goes back to that year you guys won the Super Bowl, because you guys kind of like had all those pieces in place, especially with the run game going too, with LeGarrette Blount and AJ Ajayi. You had it going. So is that something that we have here in Washington? I think we have something similar. I'm not going to say that we have a Super Bowl team. No, I'll say that we have some key pieces in key areas that can help a quarterback like that out.
Yeah, you have Gibson. You have a good run game. So you have him, you have Scary Terry, and then you have a quarterback who is at a bifurcation point. Is he going to be very good to great, or is he going to be a journeyman? We don't know
Exactly. Right.
Is he going to like middle at where he's at? So one thing that I used to like to draw this comparison when people would talk about, because WIP is insane, right? Very knowledgeable fans, but sometimes the fans here and anywhere can lose perspective on how good or bad a player actually is, right? So let's look at player X here, and I can't stop you from looking at the years on the left, but let's first 5 years. This is a Hall of Fame quarterback, right?
Right.
First 5 years. First year, 26 touchdowns to 28 interceptions. This is number one pick in the draft, right? More interceptions than touchdowns. Second year, 26-15. Third year, 33-15. Fourth year, 26-23. Fifth year, 27-19. It's not good numbers. 23 interceptions and 19 interceptions in your fourth and fifth year. That's not good, right? And mind you, this same quarterback also had a Hall of Fame wide receiver, right? First 5 years, throwing for an average of 4,000 yards a year, but making a lot of mistakes, a lot of interceptions, right?
Right.
And you know who this quarterback is, right?
Yeah.
Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
But nobody in their right mind would have said in those first 5 years, get rid of him, off with his head, bring out the tar and feathers. He's done. He's a bum.
Yeah.
Right. So let's go ahead and take a quick pan over to Carson Wentz's stats and look at his stats in the first 5 years. The only year where he's had his rookie year, 16-14. Okay, and he had nobody that year. I remember that first year with Dougie P. That team sucked. They had no wide receivers. They had Zach Ertz and then a bunch of guys, right?
Yeah.
In that second year, boom, that was the Super Bowl year. We got Alshon in here, got Torrey Smith in here, and then we got LeGarrette Blount, and then eventually Jay Ajayi, a bunch of veterans, and boom, 33-7. Are you serious?
Hey.
Right? Completely turned that thing around. It was 11-2 up to that point where he got injured against the Rams. And even in that Rams game, he threw a touchdown. Yeah. He threw a touchdown on the blown ACL.
He did.
He threw a touchdown, like fourth down, and just slung that shit like he was Brett Favre. Just slung the slider on, like, hey, my knee's going, but I'm gonna throw this shit anyway. Like, that's not normal behavior, right?
Yeah.
33-7, third year, and should have been MVP. Third year, in a down year, 21 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. In a down year. Fourth year, 27 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. And this is when people were getting hypercritical of him.
Right. That's true.
Right? Then the fifth year did not have a good year. Back down to where he was at his rookie year. Was in and out because he had the back injuries, right? 16 touchdowns. And I don't think his back was right going into the middle of the season. That's why he was struggling. Big reason why he was struggling. He could not move. And the funny thing about the back is it's connected to everything else.
Exactly.
You'd be surprised how it can really limit you. He got sacked 50 times, right? And a lot of that was due to him holding the ball too long. We have to give criticism where it's due. But a lot of that was they didn't protect him very well. They just didn't. I remember that year.
Yeah.
Jason Peters was in and out the lineup. He was like held together by sticks and glue and pickup sticks. They had nobody on. They had Andre Dillard, who was just not ready at all for NFL action. Right? They could not protect Carson Wentz. So like people will like have convenient amnesia, like, oh, you remember that year he was throwing interceptions, making bad decisions. Some of that was his fault.
He had no O-line.
No, exactly. And it's just like, look, I never played high school football or college football, but even playing PP football, I was an offensive guard. And if I missed a block, yeah, imagine me being an offensive guard, right? If I missed a block, quarterback's getting his head taken off. There is no like getting around that, right? You tell me how easy it is when you're having a jailbreak as soon as the ball snapped. Like, unless you're Michael Vick or Deshaun Watson, where you can just spin out of trouble. Hell, we just saw it with Patrick Mahomes in that year where they lost the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah,
because they couldn't protect him. As soon as he had that plantar fasciitis and he couldn't move as well as he usually do, they couldn't protect him. Those tackles were a liability. They were done. They weren't winning that Super Bowl. And I made a video about that. And I looked at it and I was just like, if his plantar fasciitis is flaring up, them tackles cannot protect him. And that's the problem that Carson Wentz had that last year. And then he goes to the Colts, better O-line, really good run game. Even though the receivers were average, look what he does. Good, solid run game, 27 touchdowns to 7 interceptions.
Yeah, man.
Right? And you look at the sack percentage. Sack percentage went way down. They had the lowest sack rate in the league, damn near. They only got sacked 32 times.
That is true. And they were top 5.
Yes.
And surprisingly, which I didn't realize, was that Washington had a top 6 offensive line last year too. So that puts a little bit in play. Like Carson Wentz can play when the O-line is holding up. So as long as Washington has a solid O-line, that gives them a chance. That gives us a chance.
Right.
So
yeah.
Is that trade? Was that trade a steal? Or was that, a win-win for both? I mean, the experts are saying that it's a win for the Colts and it's a loss for the Commanders. But how we know until he takes the field in September?
It's only going to be a win for you if you get the Carson Wentz. If you don't, then you gave up a lot of draft capital.
Exactly.
So that's, in the short term, is definitely a win based off his play. Even with the Colts, did he play solidly? Yes. But did he play as somebody who's going to be a difference maker? No. But we don't know if that's the majority of the blame falls on him or if that's because he just had a bunch of guys at wide receiver and not anybody that can really change the way a defense is going to approach you. Because I can tell you flat out, if I don't respect your speed, I don't respect your route running, I'm going to come up on you at the line. I'm going to press you. I'm just not going to respect you, beat me over the top. It's going to limit what you can do, right? I can sit on those short routes. The comeback routes, you might well forget about those. So I'm going to be jumping things all day. Be on your head.
Because I know your tendencies. So we'll see what happens with them this year. I mean, again, I feel like even with us still having our first round pick, and on top of that, we actually moved up in the second round about 5 or 6 spots. So that right there, you can still get a quarterback if that's what you're looking for. You want to get a quarterback, go ahead and get a quarterback, and you can sit him behind Carson Wentz for at least a year. I mean, I'm okay with having rookie quarterback sit. I'm not somebody that feels like, oh, I drafted you in the first round, you need to go out there and play right now. No, I'd rather protect you because you're my franchise guy. I need to see where you are now. I got to see where you progress during the season. And then if you can outbeat my starter, then hell, go ahead. I'll put you out there. But I'm not just going to put you out there just because I've drafted you. I mean, I think Malik Willis is going to be there? I mean, if Malik Willis is there at 11, do we just go ahead and take him? Sure. But then you're going to put a whole bunch of controversy now. And also, you don't know what you're doing to Carson Wentz's psyche because now you draft this kid first round. Everybody wants him to start over you. What's going to happen? I mean, there are some later round guys that I feel like can come in and just learn. I mean, you got Sam Howell. You have Desmond Ridder. Those 2 guys I do like. Kenny Pickett. He's cool. But
what draft spot what position do you address with the 11th pick in the draft if you're making a pick?
All right, so right now, if I'm looking at this team and I got Carson Wentz as my quarterback, right now I'm looking to see who's available. If there's a quarterback that's still available, I might take a call from another team that's quarterback hungry. Hey, what is your standpoint on that? If I don't get that call, I'm going to look at it as I'm going to take the best player available. That best player is a linebacker. Hell, I'm going ahead taking him. One of the boys from Georgia, taking that guy right there.
No, we taking him. Don't worry about that.
I will go ahead and just put that in there. But again, best player available. I mean, we need help at linebacker. We need help at safety. We need help at guard. I don't think there's that many offensive linemen that are graded that high of a pick this year. No. But if there is a guy that's there, sure, go ahead and take him. But we definitely need to address that linebacker spot. I do want to have a vet at that middle linebacker. Bobby Wagner would be great, but again, we just paid $20 million for Carson Wentz. I don't think we had that money to go get Bobby. I hear, Dallas is going there. It's going after him with that connection with Dan Quinn.
So Devon Payne, how was he last year for the team?
He was solid last year. I mean, Deron's been a solid guy for us. It's just that he was drafted. He was drafted in a first round where right now it's like he's gonna want the same amount of money as J.A. Jonathan Allen.
Yeah.
And he hasn't shown that he's worth that same money. He's showing that he's on the next level underneath him.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for Duran, he thinks he's on the same level as Jonathan Allen because they're boys. But again, can he get a payday somewhere else? Absolutely. And that's going to be the hard part.
So this is what I think is going to happen. Or would make the most sense to me. You guys have Jonathan Allen, beast. You have Ioannidis, he's a beast in the middle. You know, he's the anchor, right? And then you have Chase Young, your other edge rusher, right? Those would be the three I would go with because you already have Montez Sweat, right?
Absolutely. And they just exercised their fifth year on Montez.
Exactly. So I could see Devon Payne getting cut for after the June 1 deadline, right? That you guys would sign like a Bobby Wagner, and then after June 1st, Devon Payne would be gone. So like you lose him there, but you add to that linebacking core. So you already have a strong front four, and then you add to that middle linebacker with a veteran who's not going to cost as much because that's why they cut him from Seattle. They weren't going to pay him. And I don't think there's going to be a huge market to the level that he thinks he should get paid on an open market.
Absolutely. And that's going to be the intriguing thing because, again, Bobby Wagner, he's a product of the Legion of Boom. Who created Legion of Boom? Dan Quinn. Where's Dan Quinn? He's in Dallas. What does Jerry Jones do? He pays whatever you ask him to pay. So, you know, it's going to happen. I feel like it's going to happen. That defense is going to get scary. Again, you know, they had Keanu Neal. Keanu Neal is now a free agent. If Keanu is still there, go ahead. We can go ahead and pick up Keanu. I mean, he's not a bad linebacker. He once played safety. Like, he literally is what Landon Collins decided not to do.
Exactly.
To extend his career. Like, dude, you this season, with you playing in the box for us, you played very well. It actually helped our defense out a lot, like tremendously. If you just played the linebacker spot, it's going to last your career. Like, you're not as fast as you used to be. I mean, the guy's a lot faster than you. I mean, this isn't about, you know, landing, but just that hope that, you know, some guys will give. But again, he took a team-friendly cap hit earlier in the season. They wanted him to do it again. He said, no, I get it. I respect it. But we both sides had to move on. But again, at the 11th spot or even in that second round, you know, get a linebacker or get a wide receiver. I hear people talking about Drake London from USC. I'm not feeling these Pac-12 wide receivers right now. Give me somebody from the SEC. I've seen too many Pac-12 guys so far, like Juju. They can work, but I just don't trust them.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man.
So again, it's hard. But if a team is calling up at 11, I feel as though they should take the call and see what they're giving up. If they're giving up their first round later on in that draft and another high pick in the following year or that same year, go ahead, do it. Just keep building, you know, your roster that way. Because hey, you might get extra 2 guys.
Yeah, if you guys are smart, if I got that call, I would trade back, and then you can see this mock draft here. I would go after the other guy out of Utah, Devin Lloyd, linebacker. You could probably get him, you know, in the high teens, early 20s.
Exactly. Like, there's guys you can get, and even here on this mock, they have what, Desmond Ryder going at 20 to the Steelers. Like, you can probably if he doesn't go there to the Steelers at 20, that means he's going to the second round. That's your second round pick right there.
Possibly.
Can't fault that.
Possibly, yeah. Possibly.
I mean, especially with Deshaun now being eligible, I feel like the Seahawks or the Steelers are going to go after him, especially after making that trade with Russ with the Broncos.
Yeah, right now it says, and I've been talking about that because Joe Banner used to be the GM of the Eagles back during the Andy Reid era, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he has like a podcast or he writes like an article. He talks about the Eagles from time to time, and he was mentioning Nick Sirianni. The playbook is you talk up a guy real good, and that's how you try to create that trade value. Nick Sirianni was laying it on thick on his press conferences talking about Jalen Hurts. And in my mind, was just like, yeah, you're trying to, they like Jalen Hurts, I think, but they had the opportunity to get a guy like a Russell Wilson or Watson.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a no-brainer for them. So you see some of the people on this list for Deshaun Watson, trade rumors, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
11 hours ago. So out of the mix, Broncos, they got Russ. Colts. They're saying that they don't want a carnival. Okay. Commanders refusing to settle for mid-tier free agents. They've already added their guy. Yep. Dolphins, they seem interested in Tua and developing him. The Giants, they can't afford him. And he already ruled out the possibility. John Mara. And the Steelers reportedly are not interested, and they're looking at the draft probably. Wild card.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, I don't believe that either. But I could see that because like just the ownership, they don't like anything that's controversial.
I mean, they have Dwayne Haskins. What are you talking about?
Yeah, well, he's not controversial to the extent of like a Vic or Deshaun Watson or any.
That is true, but again, Deshaun Watson and Dwayne Haskins both have the same agent, so that might help. But again, the Steelers aren't going to show their hand. That's not the Steeler way.
No, they don't like the PR nightmare. You saw how they handled Antonio Brown, and at a certain point, they're just like they don't deal with guys like that.
Yeah,
not saying that they're like he has an attitude problem, but anything that's going to bring bad press, they're just like
right,
or some type of something that will cause a disruption to the fabric of the team. The Steelers are just old school like that. Steelers, Giants are just like no.
Right.
Packers the same way, right? The Jets. Okay, Jets, Browns, Saints, they're wild card teams. Vikings. Vikings are on my radar because Kirk Cousins that he gonna be gone.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. They gotta.
Yeah, dude. $45 million cap hit is crazy.
That's insane.
Former alumni of Washington,
we weren't going to pay that money. Sure enough, we knew that not to do that. That's that third time.
Yeah. So the teams that stick out to me, Buccaneers, Eagles, for sure. Buccaneers, Brady going, they're looking.
Absolutely.
Because the way their team is built, if they were able to replace him with Watson, it'd be like they not really missing the beat, right?
Exactly. Yep.
They keep their window open, and then the Eagles, obviously, they're saying one thing and then trying to create smoke and mirrors. There's already been reports they've been on the phone this whole entire winter inquiring about Watson, right? Yeah. And we have 3 first-round picks, so one of those, if not one this year, next year is going to go to Deshaun Watson. They have a lot of draft capital.
Absolutely.
Because if you add Deshaun Watson to this squad with Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert,
that's scary.
And that line, like he's probably going to have a line for the first time in his career. Then they can focus all their draft capital on defense. That's the spot.
Trying to get a linebacker.
Yo, that's what it has in the mock draft. It said the Kobe Dean. That's what we doing, man.
Man,
come on down, man. I mean, and then the other 2 spots, the Seahawks, obviously, because that would fill the vacuum, right?
Yeah, and they have the capital to do it now too.
Yeah, they'd be getting a younger version of Russell Wilson, and then the Panthers, which I forgot about, but yeah, with him and McCaffrey, that'd be a great move for them. But you have to think of like we're saying here, would Watson want to go there, right? Why would I want to go there, right? Yeah, I have run CMC, but what else do they have, right? They have some weapons on offense, but can he protect them defensively? There's a lot of holes and questions there,
right?
But yeah, those are the teams that Panthers, Eagles, Buccaneers, and now the Seahawks all of a sudden, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because now you can see here on the screen, grand jury does not criminally indict Deshaun Watson. So,
yep.
And I've been saying
I think a lot of teams knew about that. I just think that I feel like there were teams that just didn't want to deal with that PR headache. and just was like, let me just go ahead and try to get my quarterback now if I can, and just let everyone else go ahead and try and put their best offer out there. I mean, again, for us, I want Deshaun, but again, PR nightmare coming here with what's going on with our owner. He's not going to want to come here.
No.
Like that, and then on top of that, like when you look at the Russell Wilson trade, like when I don't know if you guys heard about the trades, the picks that we were giving up for Russ, for him to turn that down, like that's insane.
Yeah, he didn't want to come here, man.
He didn't want to come here, so that lets you know what the market is here. So you had to go and get your guy, and that guy had to be Carson Wentz.
Yeah, so we can see him twice a year again. That's going to be bizarre.
It is.
How quickly things turn around. It's crazy. 2 years time. Not only is he not an Eagle, but he's down the turnpike.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it works. Everyone just stays within the division. That's just how it works in the NFC East. Gotta love it.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not gonna look forward to seeing him because regardless of what people want to say here, they might not like his attitude, they might not like his face, or whatever the case may be. I still see potential there, and he still has a certain baseline. The arm is there. He might be boneheaded here and there on some plays, but he can kill you also. So, and he got some weapons now. So, it's different than Ben Simmons, where it's just like he won't shoot, right?
Yeah.
Compared to like, Carson Wentz, sometimes you see that Brett Favre phenomenon where it's like he'll give you 400 touchdowns, but he'll also give you 400 interceptions. But he's still a Hall of Famer. So we don't know where Carson's going to be, but you accept that because the pros far outweigh the cons.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I can't agree even more.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. So, hey, I think that's a good insight on this. Have some talk to somebody from the enemy, behind the enemy lines, to see what your mindset.
Yeah, man. Anytime.
Anybody that has comments, questions, and concerns for this man, leave them in the comments below. So subscribe to the channel, like the video, click the notification bell so you're notified every time I drop a video, because you never know who the hell I'm gonna have on here, man. It's like pot luck.
Exactly. Appreciate it being on the show today, man.
No doubt, man. I'm Jen, my co-host for the day. Zoe, appreciate you being on here today, and we're about to head out, man.